Hello, my name is Yaro, and this is my first video. So there were more videos on this channel, but I've privated them all since they were made in like 2020, and they were a bit embarrassing, and yeah, I just wanted to move on. So anyway, let's get to the point of this video. So you might have clicked on this video because it says I switched to iPhone after 10 years of using Android exclusively, and that is true. I've used Android all my life. No, I'm not 10 years old, I'm a bit older than that, which I won't say because of privacy reasons. And yeah, I switched to iPhone full time now. I've switched to it on the first day of 2023, and here are my experiences with it for the past, almost 2 months of using exclusively iPhone. You might be wondering why I switched to iOS when Android's pretty good as it is, and no, it isn't. I've used Android for 10 years, as you can see from the title, and I've had my experiences with it which weren't so good. So let me show you those experiences. So I'm going to show you the phones that I've used personally, that I've had the most issues with. There's 2, well maybe 3, we'll see. So yeah, this is my latest Android phone. It's the Poco X3 Pro, and it was a pretty good device when I first got it. This is the 8/256 variant, but then after 9 months of using it, it decided to randomly die on me. The PMIC chip got fried, which made the phone unusable, and after I got it back from the repair shop, I bent it because it has a plastic frame and it broke. That's why it's in this case now. I used it for a couple of months until I got the iPhone that I'm using right now. The iPhone that I got is the iPhone XS, but we'll get back to that a little later. So the second phone that I had issues with was the Xiaomi Mi 8 Lite. This thing is a mid-ranger from 2018. It has 4 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of storage, which is fine, yeah, it's usable, but it was a bit laggy. The cameras were a bit slow. And the Wi-Fi antennas were an issue because it couldn't connect from a certain spot in the house, which made it unusable over there. And in the summer, almost everyone was in that spot, so it was completely unusable there. Well, you could still use it to play games and stuff, but yeah, I didn't do that often. It worked pretty well, nothing really died on it. It currently doesn't have any operating system installed, but it was a normal phone overall. And yeah, this was the second Android phone that I had major issues with. Let's get to the third one. Third phone I had issues with is this, the Huawei P9 Lite. It's a phone from 2016 that I used from 2016 to 2019, 3 years, and in those 3 years it has been the most consistent phone I ever had. Well, until now, of course, but it lasted those 3 years, and in the third year the battery started having issues, which I recently found out that it was a common fault on these Huawei P9 series phones. But yeah, honestly, this thing was pretty good, but then Huawei got banned, and yeah, I mean, I stopped using it because I upgraded to this thing, and we know how that went from the last segment of this video. Another thing you might be wondering, why did I get an iPhone and not some different Android phone? Oh, I have had different Android brands in the past. Each and every Android phone I had was from a different brand. Yeah, the Poco and the Mi 8 Lite were from technically the same brand, because Xiaomi, owns Poco, I believe. Sue me. Anyway, I had a Nokia between the Xiaomi and the Poco, which also had issues, but I'm not gonna get into that in this video. Maybe another video later. Then I also had this Huawei. I had a Sony phone before that Huawei. The Sony was amazing. Honestly, the Sony was amazing. But I also had an LG and stuff. But as I'm saying, Android phones have already had issues for me for a while. So I just decided to make the big switch. So you might be wondering if I ever had any prior experience with iPhones and what made me do the switch. And the answer is 50-50. I did use an iPhone. I used this thing as a secondary. I never mained it because it has a broken audio IC chip, meaning that the microphone doesn't work. This is an iPhone 7 32GB that I got used for €10. I switched the screen on it. It's not a really good screen. Anyway, this thing introduced me to the whole iPhone thing. It's running the latest version of iOS because I'm not the kind of guy to keep it on an older version of iOS just so I can jailbreak it or something. So the iPhone 7 isn't the first experience I ever had with owning an iPhone. It's the first really more or less working iPhone that I ever had. I also had a 5S which had ghost touching, and I kind of fried the dumb motherboard. But that thing still is in a box waiting to be repaired someday. And yeah, my iPhone experience has always really been like I use an iPhone with a friend or a family member or something, and I always really liked it, which yeah, that's why I made the switch. All that being said, let's finally get to the phone that I actually use right now. And it's this thing, which I'm recording the video on, so I can't really show it to you. It's the iPhone XS 64GB Space Gray. This thing is amazing, not even lying. It's a 5-year-old device now in 2023, and damn, it's smooth. So the battery health on this thing is nothing good. It's 80%. I'm planning on getting that replaced ASAP once I get the money to get it replaced. So let me tell you the story of how I got it. Basically, I saved up some money and I didn't know what I was gonna buy with it. So I decided to finally bite the bullet and buy the iPhone that I've been wanting. The iPhone that I've been wanting was the iPhone 8, but then I looked at it and I went, that thing's not gonna be updated for much longer. It's still an awesome phone, but I don't think it's gonna get many more updates. And so I started searching around, and I looked at the SE 2nd generation, which surprisingly wasn't my budget, but I asked some friends who have used it, and another friend who knows a lot about Apple stuff, and they all said that the battery isn't gonna be great, but it's still gonna be a good phone. But I kind of wanted a pretty good phone overall, so I've decided to look at 10Rs, which is an amazing phone. Not like I've used a couple from my friends, and goddamn, if you want a colorful iPhone and you don't plan on using it to take professional photography, please get a 10R or something newer, definitely. I found one that a guy was selling, messaged the guy, hey, do you still have the phone? And the guy went, nope, sold it. So then I was looking around and I went, why don't I look at it 10Xs? Just why not? And so I found this thing, which was in my local city, or local town. I picked it up, and ever since I've been using this thing. It's an amazing phone. All I can say is that it's definitely a worth it phone to buy if you're on a budget and you really want an iPhone with Face ID and all the display and stuff. And honestly, it's a great investment. As you can see, the video on this thing looks amazing. I'm using the front camera, not the back camera, because I want to see what I'm doing. And honestly, it's a really great phone. Let's now get to why I prefer iOS over Android. So, this phone is, as I said, 5 years old this year, and it's really consistent. It doesn't lag at all. It has 3 GB of RAM, and that's all it needs. It has the A12 Bionic, which by far isn't the most powerful chip ever in a smartphone in 2023. And it just doesn't stutter. It doesn't lag. It just works, which is great. My second point is consistency. All the icons look really good, even on third-party apps. And that's another thing I really like about iOS, is the simplicity. On Android, as I mentioned previously in the video, I always had to have a launcher because it was just too cluttered for me to use it on a daily basis. Yes, I then stopped caring about it because I just didn't give a damn about how my lock screen and home screen looked. But on iOS, I don't have to care at all. I didn't even move a single icon on this. I'm just using it as it was stock. I didn't even change the widgets. All I did was change the lock screen a little bit and change the wallpaper. And that's how I'm using the phone. There's nothing more that you would want to do on an iPhone. And why would I recommend switching to iPhone when you can obviously use an Android just fine? First of all, iPhones just run much better. As I mentioned previously, yeah. Number 2, the phones still are valued quite well. So if you want to resell it in a couple of years, you can still get quite a lot of money for it. For example, the S10, which was launched in 2019, you would get like $150 for it, which is quite good if you want an S10 for not a bad price. But if you want to sell the XS, you can get like $300 for it, which is really good. Like, they keep their value and stuff. If you've had an older iPhone before, you can just use the switching app. Like, you can just bring it closer to your new phone and you just have this data switch to your new phone. I know Samsungs have a smart switch or quick switch or whatever it is, and yeah, that works, but this is just more integrated. And this is the most controversial point of them all, the ecosystem. Number 3, the ecosystem. Yes, I don't use a Mac, I don't use an Apple Watch. In fact, I'm using a Galaxy Watch at the moment. The ecosystem is just great. I have a friend who uses a Mac, an Apple Watch, and an iPhone, and it just all works so seamlessly together. And, like, honestly, the ecosystem is unmatched. iMessage is another great reason too. I have a friend, we use iMessage to message each other, and FaceTime is also great. If you really want to do a call, you don't have to download 1,000 apps just to do one call. Like Discord calls quite frankly suck, but FaceTime just works. So, do I regret switching to iOS? I guess you can tell from this video that no, I do not regret switching to iOS. There's two things that I miss on this phone that I wish Apple brought back. One of them was already brought back, but not on this phone, so let's go through them. This is the Poco, which I'm referring to, and it has a headphone jack, as you can see down here. Yeah, you can see it over there. And that's the thing I miss on the iPhone, but I quickly fixed that with the Lightning to headphone adapter, which works great, by the way, and if you really want the headphone jack, you should get it. And another thing I miss from the Poco is number 2, 120 Hz. It's a really nice thing to have on your phone, either 90 or 120 Hz. If you have it, it's great, and when you try a 60 Hz device, it feels weird, but I got really used to it. As I said, Apple put it in their phones since the 13, which I obviously don't have. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, a like or a subscribe would be cool. Comment your thoughts on which one you use, iOS or Android. So yeah, see you all next time. Bye.